at how would we handle click events in Angular. So just like we saw earlier that the data, the state, flows from the TypeScript, from the component, flows to the template, and then gets dynamically rendered by the browser, we can have events or data flowing the other way around, right? Starting from the browser, maybe a button that somebody clicked, right? And that can be bound by an event handler on a particular button, and then that button can call a function that is declared on the TypeScript. So we can have data flowing both ways, right? We can have data flowing from the TypeScript to the browser, or we can have events flowing from the browser down to the TypeScript. And the way we bind these events is by, again, using a dedicated special attribute that is Angular specific. Here's a click attribute here. This is not a DOM or HTML attribute. This is an Angular specific attribute. Also notice the parentheses here. See that parentheses? So we can control using parentheses and square brackets and a combination of those. We can control whether data or events flows one way or the other, right? We can control exactly how we want the data to flow. Do we want it? Do we allow data to flow from the TypeScript out to the DOM, or events flowing from the DOM into the component, right? And parentheses and square brackets, as we'll see in a minute, allows us to very specifically determine how the data flows. In here, the data is flowing, or the events is flowing from the button down to the controller, right? And parentheses is allowing that. It's saying, yep, it's generating the flow from the browser into the TypeScript. Yes, right? That's what the parentheses say. And so this creates an on-click. It's the equivalent of on-click. And we have in the string of the value of that attribute the function we want to call, right? Now here the syntax is slightly different from React. In React, typically if it's a function, we just say the name of the function, and that's it, right? And if we need to pass data to that function, we have to wrap it inside of a lambda. Yes? Right? No such thing here in Angular. Right? In Angular, it's always the function and the parentheses, even if you're not passing any arguments to that function. Yes? Right? It's click me and then the parentheses, the empty parentheses, it's just invoking it, right? And this is going to be bound to a function that is declared and implemented on the TypeScript side. Right? If you click on that, it calls it click me, and it handles it on the TypeScript side. Everybody good? Right? So here's an example of using that technique to, as we're iterating over each one of the courses. Notice the ling4. We're iterating and creating. We're iterating over a collection of courses, and we're displaying the title. Yes, we're displaying the title. Well, let's make that a little more interesting, and let's add a delete button next to each one of the course titles. Yes? Well, here's the button. The button has the label delete, and it has some class for rendering. Also notice that it's just plain old class. It's not class name or anything like that. In React, you have to use class name, right? No such thing in Angular. You can just use plain old class. Yes? So the only thing that's interesting here is that we're binding this button to an event handler called deleteCourse, which is implemented on the TypeScript side. Yes? Right? And what we're passing the ID of the course that we're deleting. You see that? We're passing the course ID that we're deleting. Right? And so let's look at the implementation of the deleteCourse. In the deleteCourse, what we're going to do is that we're going to take that state variable that we declare in the class, in the component, which I believe is called just plain old courses. Yes, to refer to that instance, we have to say this.courses, right? As opposed to a local variable in the function, we are referring to the instance of variable courses, and we're going to replace the content of that variable, right? That array. We're going to filter that array so that it is not going to contain the course whose ID is the one that we passed in as an argument. See that? So basically, we are truncating that array. We're saying, hey, that array used to have 10 elements. Well, now it has fewer elements. It's going to have only 9. Yes? Minus the one we're deleting. So this courses now has changed state. It used to be 10 elements. Now it's 9 elements. Yes? That triggers a re-rendering. Right? That triggers a re-rendering. It says, the state of the component has changed. I need to re-update. Right? And anywhere where this array is being referenced, anywhere where it's referenced, right, it will notify everybody wherever this array is being referenced in the template. Right? It might be in a for loop. It might be maybe in a title where we're displaying the length of the array. Anywhere. Or maybe in a different H1 down below, saying, the first course is XYZ. Anywhere where that array is being referenced on the template gets notified that the state changed and they need to re-render. Make sense? Right? In that sense, it's a little less efficient than React. React first calculates what the new DOM would have been, right, and it compares it against the old DOM. Right? So it compares the virtual DOMs to say, okay, well, did anything actually change? Right? If it changed, then I'm going to force the DOM to re-render in those portions that need to be re-rendered. Right? In this sense, Angular is a little bit less efficient than the way React renders, maps the state changes into a re-rendering of the DOM. Okay. Here's another example. We brand new button maybe at the top of the page that is going to do a click, and that click is going to call an event handler called addCourse, and an addCourse is going to pass in as arguments a string new course, and then the label of the button is addCourse. Now the implementation of addCourse is very simple. We create a unique identifier for the primary key, the ID, using the get time, and then we're pushing into this.courses a brand new JSON object that contains the course title that we're passing as an argument, and then the ID that we just generated here randomly. Yes? Right? Again, this course, right, this array of courses has changed state. Right? It used to be 10. We deleted 1, it became 9, and now we pushed a new one, now it becomes 10 again. Now because we push something into the array, the state changes, it's going to force a re-rendering, right, in the DOM wherever this array is referenced. Okay? Wherever the array is, or maybe where we're displaying the length of the array, if we're referencing a particular element in the array, they all get re-rendered, right, because the state changed. Make sense? In that sense, this state variables, we say that they are doubly bound or doubly bounded. Sorry, English is not my first language. So courses is doubly bounded. Is that right? Is that how you say it? Doubly bound. Thank you. Sounds so weird. So doubly bound. So that meaning that whatever happens to that variable, to a state variable, whether it's the TypeScript is modifying it or the template is modifying it, they notify each other, right? If the template is modifying somehow, it notifies the component and say, hey, somebody modify this, right? Or if the TypeScript modifies it, it notifies the DOM for re-rendering. Make sense? And we can control that with the parentheses and the square brackets, to make sure that certain things we might not want to change, right? Certain things might need to be read-only, right? We want to control the flow of the data.